Tom, my friend, welcome to the Manufacturing Transformed podcast. How are you doing today?
Paul, I'm doing great, and probably the one reason why I'm doing great is so good to see you today, but really great to see you last week at IMTS, and there were larger booths, but the Pro Shop booth, it was hopping, wasn't it?
It was. We actually got the show organizers. They got a complaint that we were so busy we were overspilling into the aisleways too much. So it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, we'll shoo some of those people away. Well, they should have given you a larger booth.
We asked for one, but we'll make sure we get one for next time. So anyway, thank you so much for coming by the booth last week, chatting, and for being willing to be on the show. Now, you have a different story than the one we often tell. Usually this is a story of, tell us about what was going poorly about your old ERP and why you decided to switch, but you have a different story to tell. So let's start with the background of RX Industries, a bit of a snapshot of what it looks like today, your own background as well, for those that haven't listened to your episode of Machine Shop Mastery, which I would highly recommend people go check out. But this is a different podcast, and we can liberally talk about the Pro Shop impact, on your business. So let's start with you and the background.
Well, thanks. At the risk of repeating myself to you for the audience who may not have picked up before, my shop is only 4 years old. And I came from a company a German firm that designed and built automation equipment. They still do. And I was the SAP implementation manager for the United States side for the sales module for SAP. Certainly not for the whole thing. So I had what I would consider fairly deep experience with SAP and ERPs in general, having used that. And when COVID hit in 2020 and my wife was continuously asking me to buy this machine shop that was available on Hilton Head Island, I knew that the first thing that I needed to do was get a ERP system. And frankly, I'd never heard of Pro Shop before then. And the only way that I had found out about Pro Shop was going through the notes of the people who had the machine shop for sale. We won't go into that part of it. But I discovered Pro Shop, and then I started Googling and adding Pro Shop to the mix. I had found something along the lines of more than 250 available ERP systems out there. Quickly shrunk that to 20 viable ones, and coming from SAP, they were a viable candidate, as was Oracle and the bigger names that you've heard of. And through your generosity, I say 3 hours, but am I exaggerating when I say that you and I spent 3 hours on the phone originally?
No, I'm sure that's not an exaggeration. Yeah.
I really honestly believe that we spent 3 hours going, because I had my guns loaded. I was like, why is this another company that I don't want to do business with?
Yeah, but you should be. Yeah.
It was too good to be true in my book. And so when we hung up, when I told Sarah, I talked to this guy and he's a better salesman than I am. Because you had walked me through every objection without fail. And the one thing that was super important to me was I knew that I wanted a quality module. And I really had that thinking in my head about, how much is that going to cost me? And the baked in nature of the Pro Shop it isn't a module that's tacked on at the end. It's just baked in through. It's in the DNA of all of Pro Shop, and I had a hard time, honestly, getting my head around the extent to which that is true. And only after having owned it for 4 years can I honestly say that if you try to take the quality aspect, the AS9100 aspects out of Pro Shop, you would destroy Pro Shop. You can't do it.
It's just
in there.
Yeah, it's at the DNA level for sure.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So that sounded like a pretty impactful meeting between you and I. And I will apologize in advance. People new prospects can no longer get a 3-hour conversation with me. So unless maybe there are a couple hundred employees, then maybe. But I was on the front lines of sales back then.
It was the depths of COVID. You didn't have anything to do otherwise.
That's right. That's right.
Right. I hit it lucky, but to be honest with you, I wouldn't have spent. Well, I interviewed quite a few other. I interviewed, in fact, 7 other companies, and their interviews lasted 20 minutes because there wasn't anything else we needed to really talk about.
Got it.
It just wasn't there. There wasn't anything to talk about for 3 hours. There's no way I was going to talk about an ERP system for 3 hours. So that's sort of like how it all started.
Yeah. So before we get into what RX Industries looks like today, I would love to have you share, because I think it's a bit of an uncommon idea that you should have an ERP even before you open your doors, really. That's not how most people think.
Well, and to take that a step farther, we're all in these online chat groups with different machining groups and industry forums and LinkedIn. And it's sad the number of times that you come across these posts. Well, we're a 3-man shop. We're a 5-man shop. We can't justify an ERP system. And I honestly cannot more emphatically tell you, if you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking about an ERP and you don't have one, this industry is splitting up between the haves and the have-nots. And while everybody has to make good parts, our customers are buying the paperwork behind it. They really are. I mean, it's the quality of paperwork and the ease of transfer of title, basically, of your gear that Pro Shop, with one click, you get all your COCs, all your certs, your material certs, anything you want to share with the customer, you can do it basically 1 or 2 clicks. And the comprehensiveness of the information is really what customers are buying. I find that to be true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have definitely long sort of stood on my soapbox and said that I think a company's business systems, quality system is the selling tool that you need to instill a confidence in a company and in a customer that you are the business they should be doing business with, right? And I was just prepping for a webinar with a customer who said exactly that. He said they have, Pro Shop's one of their best sales tools. They had a new prospect, $100 million business, very large business. They had them in for, a tour and a demo. And they almost immediately gave them 12 part numbers, about 1.5% top line revenue by those 12 part numbers, just because they were so confident in the quality system that this company had. And they even took it from this company's internal shop, where they weren't nearly as well, set up and process driven as this other customer that demonstrated, that they were just so dialed in quality and process. And so, yeah, it's I'm I couldn't agree with you more about the haves and have-nots.
Well, let me give you two quick stories about customers there, Paul. First of all, my very first customer, I led off with, let me show you ProShop. Today, my first customer is a ProShop customer. They were so impressed. They went, they're not even a machine shop.
Right. Yeah.
They're not a machine shop. So they liked it so much. And then let me tell you one story about last week. A new customer, they are a very large international defense firm. And they gave me a part where we have to make the main part on the mill. We've got to make some parts on the Swiss machine. We've got to purchase some parts and put it all together and ship it as an assembly. So I brought up and they needed a quote. They needed a quote by 6:00 California time that day, and I was at the show. So I left the show early, went back to my hotel, pulled up my laptop, and wrote an estimate for the Swiss work, an estimate for the main body, and then an estimate for the assembly. And I brought in all of the bill of materials from the first two jobs, the purchase part items, which were available on the internet, and sent out the quote. I immediately got a phone call back, and he said, "What do you mean $575? And I said, well, boom, get on a Zoom call. Now I'm very transparent with my customers. I will show them anything they want to know. So I walked him through the details of all three estimates, exactly what these items cost, exactly what the margin was that I was putting on those items, how it put together. And the last thing he said was, you will have a purchase order as soon as we can get this wrapped up and sent over. He said, that was very impressive. You definitely know what you're doing here. I don't know if that's true, but ProShop certainly made it look like I did. And it wasn't $575. It was $575 per part on a monthly basis that they're purchasing multiples. Yep. I think it's $575 parts per month. So
huge.
Not too bad.
Yeah. Congratulations. That's fantastic.
And that's the start. Yeah. And I quoted 90, 120, and 212 or something along those lines. So, yeah.
Wow.
Good stuff.
So let's, I think we understand why you strongly believe all shops should have an ERP, even when they're tiny. And I think it's compelling. Mm-hmm. What does RX Industries look like today? You've grown really fast over the last 4 years. Just paint the picture of who you serve and the size of the business.
So we started out serving something adjacent to the medical industry. It's not implantables or anything like that. But piece parts for the medical industry for our very first customer. It was just me, and then eventually I hired one guy as a machinist and then another guy as a quality manager. And then we grew out of our original location on the other side of the island, and now we're in a 10,000 square foot building. We're 15 people, doing about $3 million a year so far, and growing as rapidly as possible. But as far as ProShop goes, I don't know if you remember this, but I actually purchased ProShop prior to even purchasing the building, the very first building that we were in.
Yeah.
So, I think the key to our growth is that we were able to present RX Industries as a serious company. We weren't just trying to wing it for a while. We knew what we were doing from the beginning with ProShop, making us look perhaps a little bit bigger than we actually were. But I think more to the point, having the quality systems in place, and those customers knew that they could grow with us, and they have.
I love it so much. Cool. Well, yeah, up to 15 people and, bigger facility. And I've got to visit both facilities. So, but the second one you hadn't moved into yet. You were you're like, let's go see where we're going. And it was still the old, old business before. So I'm excited to come visit you. All moved in. So some of the, customary questions that I would ask of someone that has switched from one ERP to the next, don't really apply. How many other systems and spreadsheets and databases did you replace with ProShop? And, maybe you can, you said after our conversation, ProShop was too good to be true. Once you got into the training, and maybe you can even talk about the training and implementation process, how did ProShop sort of reveal itself to you as you learned more and really dug in beyond just a sales demo?
Well, I'm going to change the question to how does ProShop continue to reveal itself to me?
Okay, sure.
Because one does not simply learn ProShop. ProShop is not only a mile wide, but it's a mile deep. There are nuanced aspects of the power of ProShop that honestly I have not quite unleashed, but I consider myself a bit of a power user at this point. I like to think that I have mastered the tooling module, the estimate module, obviously parts and work orders, but the power of it, just that story that I gave you about what happened with that international defense firm last week, and showing them how the bill of materials works and how it automatically populates into an seemingly unrelated estimate, like the assembly level, the automatic population of those numbers in there, the elegance and the power are two things that I talk about continuously. We've got some new employees, and they come from other systems. And you have a little bit of a unlearning mode that you get into a little bit with some of them who expect, brute force effort to get things done. No, hang on. Let me show you how this works. You put in your piece price at the part level here, and it populates through. So I think it's correct to say that ProShop really continues to unveil itself, even among us power users, almost on a daily basis.
Yeah, I would say that's probably a pretty accurate statement. There are certainly aspects about it that I don't know after having used it for 24 years, or because some of them are brand new. We keep making new stuff all the time,
right.
And but one thing which is not on my typical list, but I might ask you. So, people sometimes describe ProShop as not just a program that they use, not just a software product with, screens and buttons and fields, but more like an operating system for how to run, an effective precision manufacturer in a regulated industry, right? That's sort of what we say our sweet spot is. And one of my other customers, actually, I think second machine manufacturing transform podcast we did, my good friend Jamie Marzilli, who had been a machinist for many years and had owned his shop for 10 years prior to ProShop, said, ProShop taught me how to properly run a business, right? Properly run my company. And he realized only after the fact that he was just kind of winging it the whole time with with his old ERP and his old way of running his business. I'll also give some credit, a lot of credit to his implementation person, Luke on our team, who was a shop owner himself prior to working with ProCNC, because we bought his shop. He became a part of ProCNC for years, and then of course he's now worked for ProShop for many years. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on the idea of it as an operating system for how to run a business. Whether it's the actual workflows that, you start with the estimate, it flows to this and that to that, which drives ultimately your document package, right? And it's like, if you just follow the process, you're going to have a good outcome. Any thoughts on that?
Excellent point. Paul, have you ever heard the saying, nothing happens until a sale is made?
I sure have.
You ever heard that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The problem that I experienced in my previous life was it almost like the Keystone Cops after the sale was made. You had 9 different departments converging in what could amount to a train wreck, or if things were synced up pretty smoothly, then things could have gone smoothly. And the comment is exactly right. The only time that we have gotten in trouble, the only time that RX Industries has gotten ourselves in a little bit of hurt, was we failed to follow the very simple task of doing the next right thing in ProShop. And we've tried to circumvent the system, try to make it faster. All of that has ended in something being overlooked, something being missed. And one of the smartest things I think ProShop did was put in the PP check, the pre-production planning meeting when you get an order in. And we were not disciplined users of that PPP meeting. And then when the rev was not checked off and we made a wrong revision, or material orders weren't placed in time, it's
right.
The process there, Kelsey and you are thought very, very significantly through the process of what needs to happen and when it needs to happen. And the ProShop process of intake, from getting your customer set up correctly to those shipping documents that go out the door, I think really drives profitability in the business. And that's why I think whether you're a one-man shop, or 250 or whatever the case may be, if you're not into the process, you may not be in the business, really. Because this logical step-by-step thing, and we miss things. Don't let me think that we're ProShop owners and we do everything perfectly. Trust me, we do miss things, but it all goes back to this did not happen in ProShop correctly. And when it does happen correctly, it couldn't be smoother. It really could not be smoother. Well,
yeah, it's interesting because companies that are unaccustomed to those workflows and maybe run shops that are a little bit more shoot from the hip, just sort of like quick and dirty, get it done. Yeah, we got the order. Okay, throw it over to programming. Sometimes they look at, even on a demo, and they're like, oh, that's way too much work. Like, we can't do that. That would slow down. Putting that much upfront work would slow down my whole company, right? Like, we wouldn't be able to ship jobs. And it's funny because it's like, I guess it's that, what is that ounce of prevention pound of cure. I forget the exact phrasing of it, but like, yeah, the return on investment of being a little bit more thoughtful at the beginning. And quite honestly, I don't think we ask people to do anything at all that really isn't necessary. Right. And that's why like that checklist is configurable. Right. So if you have a repeat job, we drop all sorts of things off the list because you already did it last time. You don't need to do it again. Right. So really just the bare essentials, but the bare essentials to hopefully have, a great outcome. Which, and go ahead.
Part of your story was how Luke, the implementation manager, is that the implementation manager? So as the implementation manager for another stop all production type software, I was working on that for 5 years. 5 years we worked on that.
Right.
Michael was my implementation specialist, and he was awesome. I mean, I felt like an absolute moron because Michael's hand holding was like, no, it's not that complicated, Tom. And you can go back to those god awful podcasts. They're all recorded. Yeah. And you can go back to those and listen to the pain that he was going through, because I came through a system. Look, in 6 months, we were up and running, fully functional, the occasional question, but it did not take 5 years to get this done. And you don't have to shoot from the hip. You don't have to.
Right.
One quick story. I don't know where we are on our time, but one quick story. We have our very largest customer right now came to us. Obviously, they've been getting their materials somewhere else, their parts somewhere else, and we submitted a bid, and I followed up on it. And the purchasing manager said, "No, you did not get that job." And I said, "Oh." I said, "Boy, I was really trying to be aggressive on the price. What could it have been?" She goes, "Oh, well, you weren't even close on the price." And I said, "Can you unpack that for me? How did that happen?" She goes, "Your price was," and I believe it was like $19, and his price was $8.
What?
And I said, I could understand $17.50, but $8 approaches the price of the materials. And she said, "Well, that's the whole thing. He already had materials laying around his shop from a long time ago." And I said, "You expect to receive material certs with that project too, don't you?" And I said, do you think that he actually probably still has a material search for that? She called me back about 2 or 3 days later. It works out. RX Industries has the purchase order because they have not even been following up on their certificate of conformities, their material certifications.
Right.
And you get these people who are shooting at the hip, and
yeah, and that. even if he did have the material cert laying around and could place it, they get that price one time until that material is used up, and then it's the next time it's up to 19 because they need to buy material and do all the other stuff. They realize they underbid, kind of thing. So
that was an early order, and unfortunately, I talked to her quite frequently, the purchasing person at this company, and she said they went out of business at some point earlier this year. I don't know, but
the other shop
that is unfortunate. Yeah, the other shop went out of business, and now I can't say why, because I don't know. But when you don't know what your costs are, and you don't have a good way of traceability, and you're not providing the paperwork, and if all that becomes a huge chore, nobody's going to do it. But when it's a simple matter of clicking a few buttons and boom, you're done, and packaged so elegantly, then you have to ask your question, now why aren't you doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Sure.
It's not a chore.
Sure. So that brings me maybe to a segue to another question. I know that back when we were running our shop, there were periods of time there were years and periods in our growth where we grew really quickly, like, almost triple digit, like 100% a year kind of revenue growth. And, and there's no way that we could have done that without Pro Shop being the backbone of everything we were doing. It would have just gotten way out of hand, too chaotic, too many balls in the air. Things would have dropped. Customers would have been unhappy. Parts would have been late. And, given the growth that you've seen in 4 years, do you feel like you could have grown, just as quick without Pro Shop or on spreadsheets, or if you'd chosen one of their competitors?
No, there's no way that our market is for complex parts, complex processes, assemblies. Absolutely not. I know I've told you this, and I've told other people this. We have fantastic equipment out on our shop floor. It's all brand new. It's top of the line gear. If somebody came in and held a gun to my head and said, "Give me your equipment or give me your Pro Shop," there's lots of good equipment out there. You can pick from any number of brands. Mm-hmm. But there's no way that I would run this business without Pro Shop. And I'm not telling you that because I'm on this podcast. I'm telling you that because it's 100% true. It's just, this is the hardest business in the world. It's too complicated to open up a daggone spreadsheet. And if that's what you're doing, you're really not in this business. It to me would be an unfortunate task to data entry on spreadsheets and pivot tables, and I don't care how good you are with that stuff. There's just no way that I would do it. I would not come to work. There's some people here who say I don't anyway, but
oh man, that's funny. So if you were, hopefully there'll be many shop owners that listen to this. Some might be on the fence, or not even have an ERP, or doing research, or, at some phase, pre-Pro Shop, pre-powered by Pro Shop, I'll call it.
Right.
What would your advice be? Especially for those that, do have established systems, do have a big investment in some other software. Just last week at IMTS, there was, any number of shops that came by the booth and chat with them for a little bit. And they're like, wow, this is all amazing, but we've been 20 years with JobBoss. There's no way we're switching. Right.
Yeah. Right.
And the idea of sunk costs and, I don't know, it just,
wow.
It's hard to wrap my head around. I mean, I can understand it, because it's especially, with a well-established business with dozens of people.
Right.
That's a lot of change management. That's a lot of ripping the spinal cord out of a business and doing a surgery to put a new one in.
Right. I think you need to look at it this way, Paul. The industry is splitting up between the haves and the have-nots. And the have-nots, it isn't about the money. It's about the mindset. What are you really thinking about the future of your business? And if you talk about sunk cost, if that is important to somebody, that's a big part of the have-not, the poverty mindset, the have-not mindset. If you can't understand that a sunk cost is never really recoverable. It is what it is. It's gone. It's gone forever. It should not make the basis of your decision going forward for the future. But there also has to be a willingness to say the hardest thing in the world for somebody to do is to change what they've done for a long time. But isn't that truly why we're in business? To evolve, to change, to better ourselves, to better for our customers, to better for our employees. And if we're the sad clown in charge of a company that's not willing to change, maybe they need a change at the top of the company. That's a serious issue. That's existential. That's an existential issue. It really is.
Wow. No, you're right. I mean, there's this, people often say, if you're not evolving, you're dying, right? You're not,
devolving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're devolving. Yeah. Because the industry for sure is moving really quick. And, I think that's the mindset. Are you going to lead that change, or are you going to resist that change? Mm-hmm. Right? And a lot of our clients,
I would say,
yeah, go ahead.
I would say to somebody else who's got a legacy product, and maybe they're not in the sad clown category of just resisting the change. Maybe, it's a scary proposition to do it. What if this whole thing unravels? It could cost me my job, which is completely real in terms of thinking about this. If somebody's out there and wants to talk to me, or I'm sure any of the other guests here on this podcast, I just want to assure you personally that I would not even take the time to be on this podcast if I did not think that getting the word out that there really is a great system to run your business by. Look, you can think of it this way. It's so good that I consider it my competitive advantage. So actually don't buy it. Go back to your abacuses when you run your business. Don't do it, because your company would be just as good, probably better than mine. I am not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I can tell you I made a great decision, and I look good because of it. And you will too. It won't be painless. It won't be costless. But I truly believe if you're on the fence, you're going to leave a legacy at your company. You will absolutely leave a legacy for the people who come behind you, because having this software, there will be people behind you. You don't,
right.
Then that may be a different story.
Yeah. Yeah, the gentleman that I was telling you about earlier in our talk, who had that customer that gave him 12 part numbers, the webinar that we're prepping for is called How to Build a Business That Your Kids Won't Run Away From. And he realized, he's second generation. He wants to prepare the business to be really solid for the third generation. And he realized that he was not doing that. Right. He had a business that he was not willing or proud to hand off to his kids. And during our talk, he's like, I'm not sure his kids are still pretty young. He's like, I'm not sure the business would still be around in 10, 15, 20 years, if and when they take it over, if we didn't evolve and, digitize and they've done lots of other wonderful things, upgrading equipment But you're right. There may not be someone behind you if you don't do the right things. Yeah.
Wow, that being a good steward of what we have been given is job one, really. And you can try to ignore software as being, the pain in the butt that it is, and it's not free, but the alternative is is not acceptable. It's really not acceptable. And after doing the research on truly diving in on 7 other pieces of software, I can tell you from what I saw, their product was not acceptable. It just was not acceptable. And the time that it would have taken to implement one of these behemoth companies was untenable. I didn't have that much money to wait that many years to figure it out, let them do their research. And you guys were machine shop owners, for heaven's sakes. I mean, you knew what needed to be baked in, and you did a fantastic job. And I love the fact that last week or the week before, it was the week before, I opened up Pro Shop and I thought, that's elegant. Did I miss that before? And I asked you at the show, I said, did you upgrade Pro Shop?
Mm-hmm.
And, well, you told me you're doing 500 upgrades a year. Some of them are really obvious, but the other thing that I want to not fail to mention, Paul, anybody who meets Paul Van Metre in person knows that he is a man of character, and he's probably one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. But the really interesting thing about Pro Shop is the people behind Paul, the people who have to do the deed every day and answer your questions. And I'd be the first one to admit I get very frustrated when I can't figure something out, and I'll send the query in to the help desk. And number one, they're prompt, and that's great. But the really excellent thing is they're unfailingly polite. They're unfailingly kind, even when I don't deserve it. And I want to thank you, Paul, for setting that culture up. It's you and Kelsey. It was intentional,
Kindness is one of our primary core values. So I will say that. But we hire a lot of our support team is Canadian, and they are famous for being unfailingly polite as a culture, as a country. So I think the combination of the two works out pretty well in our favor.
Is Luke Canadian?
No, Luke is not. Although, actually, you know what? I think he might. You know what? Actually, he might actually have been born there. I don't know for sure. Okay. I know he lived there for a long time, but no, our actual support desk staff. They are the best. Our whole team is amazing. Yeah. That was on full display last week at IMTS, where kind of like we got the feedback. People, were making the rounds, going to different booths, and they're like, when we finally, got around to the Pro Shop booth and could dig in with a super in-depth, very nuanced conversation with Luke or with Jason or with Brian or with JC or with Vince or with Michael, right? About how to run a business, how to run a machine shop using Pro Shop. It was such a stark contrast between the sales staff at some of the other booths that really don't know what they're talking about. And so, we just feel incredibly lucky and blessed to have folks like them, on our team. And
so I saw the fabulous Servin brothers there, who are from Pro Shop users.
You did.
Can I break my arm giving myself a pat on the back? Because, I'm the one who told them that. But the reason why I asked is it looked like they were actually helping prospects coming to your booth.
Yeah, we had our whole customer ambassador program running for the second time in a row, where, in advance of the show, like 2 months out, we said, hey, we would love to have volunteers to come to our booth, put on a Pro Shop, powered by Pro Shop shirt, and help us, spread the gospel about Pro Shop. And we had more than 30 people, clients, say, yeah, sign me up, and that was one of the most heartwarming parts of the show, And it was, yeah,
Wow.
because you just don't see that at other booths, at other companies. Actually, I heard about a
thought
company.
they were enthusiastic. Go ahead.
Oh, I heard about another software company in our space that saw us do it in 22 and decided to try to do that themselves this year and put out the call, and no one said yes. So they had to cancel the whole idea. And ours was twice the size
I
as
must
22.
have overlooked that email.
Oh, it's all good. I know.
And I didn't know that until you just said that, because I was like, hey, that's pretty cool. The fabulous Servin brothers they're over there helping customers. That's very cool. And I didn't know you had. I didn't know that was put out.
They are fabulous. But yeah, them and 28 other clients said yes. I'm happy to come. So, but you have been an unfailing advocate for us. Yeah, thank you for this this episode. Thanks for all the other things you've done with us and for us over the years. The way that you give back both to us and I think to the industry in general. And I see you in a lot of those forums and places where people ask questions, and whether it's about ProShop, whether it's about machines, whether it's about whatever, you are just paying it forward to the industry. And that's one of the things I love about you and a lot of the people in this industry. It's very collaborative. Mm-hmm. People are more than willing to, share pretty much anything. And we need that. We need everyone to do that because our industry needs every shop to be operating at peak efficiency to support the country, to support our economy, to be competitive on a global basis here in North America. So it's really important, and thank you for everything you do.
Absolutely. It's of national strategic importance. I truly believe that. Yep.
Oh, undoubtedly. Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me on, Paul.
Thank you, Tom. So if people want to reach out and connect with you about your services at RX Industries or anything else, how would you suggest they do that?
Well, we're on Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. So the first thing I'd suggest you do is book a ticket. Come see me.
It's a lovely place to visit.
Spend a week on the island, and I'll give you the friends and family special. But if you can't get to Hilton Head Island, South Carolina, personally, shoot me an email. Feel free to put that in the show notes, my email. And feel free to call and come over. Feel free to email me. Feel free to drop me a text. Find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever.
Awesome, Tom. Well, thank you again so much. This has been a very fun conversation. I appreciate you sharing everything that you did share, and congratulations on all the wild success. I can't wait to see what you look like in another 4 years, or what RX Industries looks like. It's going to be a force to be reckoned with. So congrats.
Thanks for having me on, Paul. Nice chatting with you as always. You're a great host and a great asset to this industry. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you, Tom.